So, hi everyone, I'm Jill Novak, and today I'm here with my friend Wendi Napier. And Wendi and I have been having some super interesting discussions lately around collaboration, co-creation, and how even though we are approaching our businesses, no, even though our businesses are different, our approach to those businesses seems very synchronous. There's some really base things underneath these businesses. So Wendi is the creator and owner of Open Door Design, and she comes with I don't know, I was going to say like 20 years design experience and background in corporate and commercial and personal home design.
Something in there.
Yeah. And last year, Wendi and I had opposing experiences. So, and I want to talk about that. Wendi and her family were practicing the year of nothing new. Mm-hmm. So no new purchases. And my family did a house renovation with Open Door Design guiding us. And so my house went through this huge new update, and there was lots of new in my life this year. And then you were practicing the year of nothing new. So it just feels like that was such a, there was opposite things happening in our lives. And yet there's a lot of underlying lessons that seemed very synchronous. So before we get into my reno, I wanted to ask you about the year of nothing new and how that came to be in your family.
Curiosity. Mm-hmm. Really, I think I came up with the idea, not to impose it on the kids, but they're just along for the ride. And John, my husband, was open to it as well. And it just came around the idea of what would happen, right? We had a real curiosity around if we could do it, you know, if it was really possible. And the outcome of it, like we weren't sure what was going to happen. So we were pleasantly surprised in review that it was a lot easier than we thought, Jill. Mm-hmm. And the takeaways were worth it. Big time.
Every time we talk about it, I keep thinking about the yamas and niyamas, which are the ethical practices of yoga. And it's something that you and I are like, we are in this book right now studying it together. Mm-hmm. And these yamas and niyamas are the base principle of how you live your life on a yogic path. And so many of the things that you had been practicing as you were doing this year of nothing new, I think just like land us directly in these ethical practices of yoga, like things like non-possessiveness, right. Things like non-excess, the idea of self-discipline, or the idea of being content with what you have. This huge layer of self-study happening underneath all of it.
Yeah, it felt like a rewiring. And I don't know how to explain it otherwise, but it was just how we've seen things. Mm-hmm. Now, coming from a background of interior design, we're almost trained to, you know what, I'm gonna delete that, because it's not just interior design. I think it's globally. I think it's globally that we are trained for achievement. And achievement sometimes comes with the need to up level or upgrade or replace something with something better. So it was a little bit backwards. And I know I shared that example with you where I got really, really into gardening, seriously into gardening this year. And I started the year with a watering container that had a crack in it. So every day I just had to be grateful for the fact that this watering container with my duct tape still did the job that a new one would do, and let go of the idea that I should be needing to replace this. So it was like my brain was fighting with me quite a bit. But
I love that idea that you said you're rewiring something, like the patterns that existed for you had to change in order to take on this challenge.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what yoga is always asking us to do, right? Always asking us to assess the pattern. And if that pattern is useful for you, then continue. And if for some reason that pattern is outdated or like kind of holding you back, then update the pattern.
Right.
And
it gave a lot of information too, right? Where I'd bump up against that resistance of feeling the need to to shop or replace something, or seeing something as less desirable. It just gave me information of like, what is that reflecting in how I'm feeling right now in this moment. So every time I was white knuckling it, wanting to take my grocery cart and meander into the stationery aisle, it was like, what's happening right now, and address that. Look at that first.
So like I have to feel like that's the biggest piece of all of this, especially since you said we didn't go in with any objective in place. We were just curious as to what the outcome would be. And that what you're talking about is just awareness. So as soon as you put the challenge in place, it gave you this awareness of, oh, I'm going into the stationery aisle. Whereas usually you just go to the stationery aisle. You wouldn't ask yourself why, or what does this mean, or what's the pattern behind this, or what do I really need? Whereas you were making yourself answer those questions along the way.
Yeah.
So I want to, you go ahead first.
No, I was just going to add to that and say, I would, in the past, just accept my reason, right? I would have a reason why I was purchasing, and sometimes those reasons are valid. But in this case, there was a reason and then an underlying message. So that was kind of the insightful information that I got along the way.
The year of you, which you've been in with me for a year and a half, at least, like that's our whole goal, right? Is we take this habit of, hey, we're going to try eating an earlier, lighter dinner, try it and see how it goes. And in most cases, we have a reason of whenever we eat our dinner, and then we notice we have our belief underneath that. And sometimes it's easy to switch because the belief isn't too like anchored in us. And sometimes it's hard, but it feels like that's what we're practicing every single week in the course. And I want to know if there was any sort of relationship between what was going on for you in the habit evolution that we were trying to create, and then your ability to really stick. It was like you were practicing this on two different sets of habits at the same time.
I think because it was so black and white. You know, it's the idea of going to the gym 3 days a week or going 5 days. Like if I set the parameters around nothing new, then there was no wiggle room. There was the slide into making excuses for why the purchases were happening. So for me, it had to be that rigid because I recognized it was so deeply wired in filling. Yeah. It was it's accepted in my practice. It was accepted in my upbringing and all of that. So I just wanted to get really curious about what it was that I was actually hungry for, I suppose.
What was your answer to that question?
Connection. You know, when I was seeking connection, I would look to fill with newness, and the amount of connection that was brought into my life in this last year sustained me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking to fill it with anything else.
So what filled you wasn't stuff, it was connection.
Yeah.
And I even want to say co-creation, because this is where I wanted to sort of introduce the reno that happened in my house. It was a long time coming. It was sort of like my husband and I had a love it or list it fight happening, where he just wanted to move. And I love where we live and where our property is located in our little town. And what you helped us do is you came in and you asked us all these questions about what we desired from our space and what was missing. And what we realized when we did like this, like overall assessment of space, is that some things are changing in our family. Our kids are growing. And COVID sure changed things. My husband was working from home. I was working from home. We had 2 teenagers finishing high school, working from home. Now we have a kitchen table university student and still a high school student working from home. So the needs of the house have really changed in the last 9 months. And you came in August, like no, you came in before that. So the reno started in August, and you helped us with the design probably since June. And you were talking about, we really expected that we were going to be like, okay, Wendi, what are we going to do? And you were like, yeah. Yeah. So tell me about those sorts of meetings where we were like, okay, what are we going to do, Wendi? And then what you would do to us.
Yeah, it's a different way of engaging in the built environment, because we all want to come in with the answers, right? It's really affirming to say, you know, do it this way. And it's labor intensive. It can feel labor intensive to go through that process of unearthing to get down to that deeper why. And that's what I really value about the way my business has been shifting, and how this nothing new has supported it. It's not taking the easy route of just an overhaul, right? Seeing what it is that you value and what is actually serving you, and holding that secret, right? Because there's aspects of your home, and you mentioned it too, like it is seriously just in the heart of Cochrane, and it gives you access and the ability to take in nature, to go down to the studio in 5 minutes flat, right? Like the idea of uprooting and moving to a new location wasn't it, but that wasn't for me to decide.
There were some really specific things that we talked about when we were going through the house, and we would stand in the living room and you would say, what are you guys doing here? And I remember telling you, well, nothing really. Like right now our family tends to divide, and we go to our different rooms and everyone's on their own devices, and like we come and eat in the kitchen, but there's not a lot of hanging out that happens in this room. And you said, what do you want to happen in this space? And my husband and I started sort of like, well, gosh, we'd love it if our kids would hang out with us more. We'd love it if we could watch and enjoy something together. And the room changed. And now we hang out there as a family all the time. There's just like this anchoredness. And some of it came from color choices and plants and things like that. But a lot of it was just like the way the intention of the room shifted. And then you helped us create the space where that activity felt, where that kind of presence felt welcome.
And I want to say ditto, because that's what your practice does too, right? It looks at outdated routines or outdated ways of moving through your day and reinventing it. And it doesn't have to be this big overhaul, and sometimes it does, right? We need the shock value to almost just reset. But your home didn't match where your family was heading. And that's where I think that divide happens. And that's what the fracturing of the room itself happens. And what Year of You did for me is I felt discombobulated because things weren't in alignment. And it had me just take like one little piece and say, does this fit? Okay, that's going to stay. Does this fit? No, how does that shift? So that's what I like to see in spaces the same, because it is a relationship, and our spaces help us navigate what our days look like and how we engage, because what might fit one person, the difference between spaces and year of view, you get to focus solely on yourself. And yes, that it does have that interplay with your family and your routine and everything, but your space has to support everybody that's abiding in that environment. So it's a big puzzle.
Well, the piece that was most, and this is where the synchronicity and it felt like really a ton of collaboration and co-creation when we were working with you, was that piece exactly. Like, it is super important to me to be designing for my future goals, to be designing for my future self, to be setting up who I want to be next, and not be doing things like, we have a space in our house that would have been perfect to put in like a bar. And I was like, I can't put in a bar. I don't want to make it easier to have this habit that I don't want to add into my life. I want to have, so my kids call it the Good Intentions Center.
Oh, I love that. What does that mean?
The Good Intentions Bar, because we just, instead of making it into like a place where it's like a wine cooler and then all the wine glasses and the liquor kind of up above, it's now full of like soda stream kind of bubbly water, and lots of drawers where there's the really good recipe books and quick access to spices and teas and things like that. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. But that's the co-creation piece, right? When we talk about architecting your environment, that's super important to me in yoga, because I want spaces that will support my growth. And you want your spaces to feel like they serve you. Yeah.
And for us, it was taking stock of what we had and sitting with the idea that this is going to be a labor-intensive, emotionally, mentally, sometimes taxing process of really discerning what supports us and what do we want it to look like. So we had to be good with what is in order to allow that to happen. So it took a year.
Yeah. I like that word that you just used.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
so
share.
On to 2021. Now that we've sat with everything that we have, nothing new, is we're clearing. So now we're intentionally letting go of what no longer serves. And I did a lot of research around this, and I have a lot of information just being in the field that I'm in. But we're following the Maria Kondo practice in a certain way. Nothing is like a really good fit. And so for us, it was 10 things in, or 10 things out in 10 minutes. So that's what we have committed to. Starting, it was January 4th, I believe. We're a little late on the go, but we've had over 400 things leave our home in the last month, and we haven't missed it. And it has felt so much lighter, because when we're releasing things energetically that have lost their spark, it's creating space for recognizing what does. So that's our practice this year, and I have felt a major shift. And I don't want to do anything or ask anything of anyone else that I haven't experienced myself. That's my also just honoring that of authenticity. So I'm going through this year before I maybe support others in the same practice.
But you kind of did, because there's a lot of purging that needs to happen in a reno. I mean, we literally, every single thing was gone from our main floor. And it bringing things back was so, like, there was one set of purging that happened when everything got moved out.
Yeah.
And then a second layer of purging happened as things came back in, and you could feel, like when you Marie Kondo, it's like you can feel, does this bring me joy? Does this get to come back into my space? Or can I say, thank you, I'm done with this, and let it go? Yeah, we got really stressed out during COVID by the fact that you could only take one box or two boxes to the donation center.
Oh.
So it'd be like, go again today, go again today, go again today. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Reno Heaven had a lot of donations of light fixtures and things.
But there is this energetic exchange that happens with that, isn't it? Because if you're holding on to it and if you don't value it, then you're not allowing somebody else to maybe take that same thing and honor it as it should be. Because what sparks joy for somebody else maybe doesn't spark joy for you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's
I think that's it, isn't it? Like you talked about, when even as you're doing your 10 things out in 10 minutes, there's something about it that clears space. And I go back to that idea. I don't know. I think it's more of a physics idea than a yoga idea, but nature abhors a vacuum. So when space is all of a sudden created, something new comes in to fill that space. And that's what to me is so fascinating about the synchronicity that you and I find between sort of the yoga and the year of you and the developing the new daily routines, and how those daily routines sort of serve the up-leveled next version of you. And then what you do in design is that you're taking this architect, your environment, and your whole business is wrapped around how do we create environments where that next version of you gets to flourish. I mean, you've even helped me with my office space. You've helped me with, Jason and I did a bedroom reno, which you made us do before the main one, because you said.
I was pretty bossy with that, wasn't I? I said, we're starting here, because let me tell you, renovation is like putting up a Christmas tree. It's like a testament to your marriage. And I wanted to make sure you had like a sanctuary to retreat to at the end of the day if needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And we love that space now. I laugh because in my whole 25 years of marriage, I am not a throw pillow girl at all. Like, I don't have any foof on my bed. And we went throw pillow shopping, and we have 3 throw pillows on our bed now.
That's impressive.
There's super interesting shifts, super interesting pattern shifts. And I don't even need to get into, what that's changed. But yeah, like there's a relationship effect where our needs, just like you said, my needs are being met by the relationships around me.
Because you entered into those changes of your space with intention, right?
Yeah.
You created the space, like I have been doing with with Year of You, creating the space for yourself to design what your future looks like. And it's beautiful when you can start to recognize the language of your space. Yeah. So you're having this conversation always to say, what are you trying to tell me?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Start picking up that language, and then you're just, it's a conversation. You're taking your turns, and you're going back and forth and asking, what do I need? What are you providing? And what's being said, I suppose. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. As usual, I feel like that was just like the tip of the iceberg in the context and depth that we could go in on those topics. But I love the idea right now that people's purpose, people's dharma, their reason for life is going so much deeper. Like I feel like I'm going so much deeper than teaching you how to do downward dog on Zoom. And you're going so much deeper than helping people pick out, what their granite countertop's going to look like. And it's just adding so much value where we didn't know that's where the value was.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes you love what you do. Right. And I think if there's passion behind anything with purpose and intention, that there's beautiful, beautiful things happen. So I have really, the year of you has, like I said, it's brought connection, and it has supported me in the last couple of years more than I expected. Like I didn't, I went in with no expectations, and what I came out with is exactly what I needed, and it's still such a journey. So
yeah,
I value it so much. Yeah.
Me too. And likewise, I want to just say that for anyone who is really wanting that shift where they're stepping into designing their own future and pointing their home, their family, their life purpose in the direction that's very purposeful and intentional, then you might need a little kick from Open Door Design because it was a fascinating process, and we all in my family, we are absolutely in love with the end result. Yeah. Thanks, Wendi. As always, so good to chat with you.
Thank you, Jill.
We'll see you soon.
Take good care.